Hello, Revere, and welcome to another great show with another great guest. His name is Michael Ferrante. He's on the Revere School Committee. Michael, welcome to Revere Veterans and Community Show.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
And thank you for being a community veteran. Now, you've been on the school committee 10 years, and before that, you were on the city council for 4 years?
Yes.
Tell us a little about yourself now.
Well, I started getting politics the year roughly 2000. You know, I went on the city council. I was there, like I said, for 4 years. It's a little different. And then, you know, my dad passed away, and then, you know, people said, you should run for your dad's seat in the school committee. And I did, and I was fortunate enough to win the first time, and I've been there 10 years, and I'm running again to get reelected. And it's different. It's, you know, the council's a lot different than the school committee, you know, because more of our problems are all done with the schools where the city has to worry about everything.
Exactly. What is the function of the school committee for people that may not know it?
Well, basically, I think it's just to oversee things, you know, oversee what the superintendent and administration wants. And you oversee it, and you have to make certain, you know, votes and things. And we really don't get into the hiring part of it because people think we do. I mean, we really hire the superintendent and the assistant superintendents. And we just try to keep, you know, keep everything going on a smooth, nice, even keel. Nice
What
level.
about the teachers? You have nothing to do with the hiring?
No, we don't. We really don't have anything to do with them. It's all done through the superintendent's office.
Right. Now, a question that has come up, and I've heard people talk about it, is the money that they cost to pay each student for the students, the tax money. Tell us a little about that, how that goes from the city to the school.
Yeah, what happens is this, we have a budget each year. And for each student right now, it's about $14,000 that costs the city to educate every child. I mean, especially when these childs are more because there's more services involved, the school's more expensive, transportation, whatever. And at that point, the city pays half and we pay half, being the school department. Most of our money is generated through grants. And the school, and the city, city gives us X amount of dollars predicated on whatever the formula is. And that's how we generate the money to educate the kids.
So that includes the teacher's salary, the books, the computers?
It includes everything.
Oh, the whole works?
The whole works.
That's very, very good.
We need, I mean, you know, with the city giving us so much by the formula that's out there, we have to raise a lot of grant money because, you know, the run anything is very costly and very, very expensive.
Right. So I was going to ask you this. You know, they're talking about building apartments here. We went over that at the beginning. You know, I mentioned to you where I live, and they want to put some apartments in the back. That increases the kids.
Right.
The schools that were built now, I believe someone mentioned to me that the Hill School,
Right.
as it is now, was built for 700 maybe kids, and they already have 600, a little over 600.
Right.
So how's that going to work out if they start building more apartments and they have the more kids coming
Well,
in?
unfortunately, for the school department's sake, apartments don't help us at all. It just brings more and more kids to the city. I mean, as we all know, the Northgate one, they have three apartments down there. I think 2 of them are going to be ready this year. We're probably going to get a lot of kids out of it. I don't know where we're going to put them. We're stuffed to the gills. The average class is probably 30 in elementary, and it's a lot for a teacher to do in, you know, in a short period of time. So apartments for our purposes doesn't do us any good at all.
Right, and roughly how many kids per class for each teacher, roughly?
Well, we're in the 30s. The elementary's
That's
in the
awful
30s.
high.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot to try to keep them, though. You know, and the teachers do a great job. They really don't get the credit they deserve, and it's something that there's nothing we can do. I mean, when I was a kid years ago, we had 17, 18 schools, so you could spread it out. Now we don't have those schools, and we're getting more, more children in the system, and it's just made it a very difficult situation right now.
Now I've got to ask you, they're talking about building a new high school.
Right.
Are they going to put that high school behind the old one, you know, on that highway grounds?
Well, the thing is, if you put it there, you have to replace the fields, because if you take something, you got to replace it. So we'd have to replace the turf field, we'd have to replace the baseball field, and probably push it to the left towards the School Street thing. I personally would like to see us get it off site if we could.
Where would you think of a good site? If you, let's say you could build a school and you could put the site where you want.
If we had the money to do it, I would either go to Wonderland Park or I'd go to Suffolk Downs, the stable area. Those are my dreams. I don't know if it'll ever happen, but that would be the best thing, because then we could take the high school and make it a centralized middle school for 6th, 7th, and 8th grades, and all those seats that we had in these existing schools would open up and give us 15 extra 100 seats that we could desperately use.
Right. You know, it's funny because you mentioned it about the education in the city of Revere. A lot of kids like to come here because We had the #1 superintendent. We had the great school, the Revere High School.
Right.
Tell us a little about that.
Well, the education's top notch. I mean, we put a lot of resources into education. The former superintendent was always ahead of the curve. The existing one will be fine. People may not like to hear it, but she will be fine, Dr. Kelly. And we put a lot of effort into it, try to stay ahead of the curve and give the teachers the tools they need necessary to make the kids a better student. We're running into a language barrier problem. You know, we need translators because the kids that are coming in, they don't speak English, which makes it hard for the teachers to communicate. But we're doing the best we can with it. It's not an easy thing. You know, you're dealing with over 7,000 kids in the school department, so it's not an easy thing.
Approximately, how many languages are there in the Revere School?
There's several. There's several. I can't give you the exact amount,
no,
but there are several languages. And
I know there's Spanish, there's
Yeah.
Italian, there's French.
in English, unfortunately, doesn't seem to be
Oh,
one.
they do have English?
We
in
do
the-
have English. We do have English. There are a lot of them, and it makes it very difficult, and all the more so that the teachers deserve a lot more credit. And it's really a team thing. It goes from the superintendent's office outward. You know, it branches out like a tree, and you know, we're trying to do the right thing and keep everybody happy, but sometimes you just can't do it.
Right. Now, I also understand that there's a lottery for kids that do not live in the city of Revere.
That's not true. The only lottery we have is really for the 6th grade. You know, for the the 5th graders going into the 6th
sixth
grade.
grade.
That's the only lottery we have. So, you know, a lottery coming to the school, I really haven't heard that. So I really shouldn't say anything on that. I'm not.
No,
100%
but
sure.
I've heard from other people in there that they do have someone else from the school mentioned to me that they do have a lottery.
Yeah, the only lotteries from the 5th grade get
Right
into
to
the
the
6th
sixth
grade.
grade. That's
Because,
good.
you know, unfortunately, you know, when they send home the paper to pick the 3 schools, they're all picking 1 or 2 schools, so we can't get an even distribution. So we have to figure out a formula to try to make it fair for everybody.
I have to tell you, I think when you were a young man and I was a young man going to school, we walked to school. Now I notice nobody wants to walk to school.
Yeah, everybody either takes the bus or the parents drive them. I know one thing, I never get driven to school.
Neither did I, and
So I
I
always
used to walk
walked.
quite a bit.
I mean, I-
Rain, sleet, snow, storm, didn't make any difference.
Yeah, when I went to the Garfield school, if I missed the bus, I was walking there. I wasn't getting a ride. So it's different today. Everything's different, you know. Unfortunately, the kids are pampered to a degree, and, you know, it is what it is.
I have to tell you this, Mike. When I was a young man, we used books in school. Now I notice the kids, they don't walk around with books. They walk around with computers,
iPads.
iPads,
Right.
even smartphones, and they look it up. But let me ask you this here. The education that they get in school, do they learn it both ways, without the iPad or the Chromebook, to do it by hand, or they strictly count on those?
It's more, you know, the upper grades like high school more do it with the iPads. The smartphones are their own personal things. You know, all the kids at the high school pretty much have iPads now, and it makes it easier to do things. The books, are, you know, they're very expensive too, and they're probably a little bit antiquated. So if you need to do something, it's easy just to look it up. And if you have to send back a paper or anything, you just email it instead of writing it out. I mean, it's a lot easier for the students today back then when we were using typewriters.
Right. You know, the high schools today, I believe, have the SAT scores. Is that correct?
Yes.
When I went to school in the Big Apple, we have what they call Regents, Regents exam. Is there any difference between the two, or they're both the same? In other words, if you wanted to go to college, you had to pass the Regents to have good scores, and is that the same?
Yeah, well, the MCAS, I'm sorry, the SAT scores are really for the colleges. I mean, because that gives them a determination, you know, how smart an individual is. I personally don't put a lot of stock into it because when you're taking that test and you could have a bad day and not do well, I think the true indication is that when people's report cards, because that's done on a yearly basis, is a true indication of people's grades and the ability to get into school than those tests. And I think eventually at some point in a short period of time that those things will be obsolete.
I'd like to throw this question at you. If I wanted to be a teacher, what education would be for me required? Let's say I wanted to be a math teacher.
Well, you have to get a teaching certificate, but the only way the teachers really, you know, they get degrees, they get their masters plus, or whatever.
Oh, you got to have masters?
No, you don't have to, but that just gets you more money in your paycheck.
Oh.
And you know, you're always impressed for education. The more education you are, the better off you are to handle the situation.
Right. Now, do they have teachers with PhDs in high school too, or most of the PhDs are college professors, if I can use that word?
I don't think that anybody at the high school has that. I don't believe they
PhD?
do. Yeah, I don't believe they do.
So in other words,
It's more
if I want to be a
college.
college professor,
Yeah, I would think so.
right, that's good.
Yep.
So now, let me ask you, that kids that might need help, remember you mentioned before that can't speak English?
Right.
Do they have special classes for them after school?
No, not really. They don't. But we have a lot of translators in the schools that help out.
Oh,
There is probably, you can't take a class if you want. We're trying to set something up with the city if they want to, take a class and learn to speak the language. But we really don't have it in the schools.
right. Now, I've got to ask you this. Since you've been on the council for 10 years, what was it like when you first came in, your first day, and what it is like today, the difference between then and now?
I would say that things are more progressive, with the computers, the iPads. The population's obviously been a major change. And, we have a lot more teachers here because we have a lot more specialized things because we have more kids. And also the biggest thing is losing the schools. We lost all those schools, many years ago, and it's made it really tough,
Right.
to keep things going.
Now, does the school, I know this is a hypothetical question, but does the school make an allotment? For example, where they're doing a lot of construction in the city of Revere, do bridge work down on Winthrop Avenue, Broadway. The buses that bring the kids to school, if the buses are held up, but not because the buses
Right.
are late, but because the traffic holds them up, do they make an allotment not to mark the kid late?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. As long as the bus driver gets on the phone and calls, say,
Oh,
we ran
okay.
into traffic, they won't do anything. It's just that if they don't get the call from the bus driver or, the person in the vehicle with them, then they would probably mark them late.
Okay, that's the bus driver. Now, I'm a parent and I drive my kid to school and I get held up in traffic. Do I get the same treatment? We're not sure on that one.
I would say I'm not 100% sure, but I would think no.
Oh,
I
okay.
would say no.
Then I would have been late 100 times.
No, I don't think they would do that.
Okay, now I was just curious because, we are doing terrific construction in the city.
Yeah, it's hard to get around. It really is. It's just, there's so much work. Where my offices, they're doing 2 buildings behind me, doing the motorcycle place and the over 55 apartments. And it's hard to get around. And it's a small city. People don't realize how small it
I
really
know,
is.
compared to other cities.
Yeah.
We are small with a big population.
Yeah, the
Which
population's growing.
And it speaks highly of Revere because the people want to come in here. That's good.
Well, the location's great. I mean, you're about 10 minutes to Boston.
Right.
You want to go to New Hampshire, probably half hour, 40 minutes. You want to go to the Cape, it's about an hour. So it's centrally located.
You don't even have to go there. You got the beach right here.
Right. So you can get anywhere from Revere. So it's a very convenient place to
Right.
go to. You want to go to Lynn, 10 minutes away. So it's very, very convenient. And you have to cut through Revere to get to anywhere almost.
That's right. That's right.
It's just it's a big cut through.
Now, it's created a problem in some cities, some towns, and some states. They legalized marijuana. A lot of the kids out in the Midwest where the states are legal are having a little problem. The school committee, I hope, would never allow that to come into our city.
Absolutely not. But remember, we don't really control that.
Oh, how does that work then?
Because what happens is when they passed that in the ballot years ago,
Yep.
you have to apply to the state for a license for it so places can have it. Now, I know that probably a couple years ago they were looking to put one near the railroad bridge in one of those buildings there,
Yep.
and it got rejected. There is no way that any of us would ever support something like that.
That's good. Then I could go for
Yeah,
100%.
I don't think the city would support it either.
Another thing I would like to see the school committee, as a citizen, keep is the Pledge of Allegiance, because a lot of places want to take it away
Right.
from us.
Right.
So that will never happen, I hope, and as long as the school committee is there.
Yeah, as long as we're there, it won't happen. But, like I said, it really, unfortunately, it's not our call, but I wouldn't see why they would take it away. You'd have to have some tremendous reason to, stop doing something like that. It should be done anyways.
That's good, because, in some places, like a lot of people who come from different countries and they squawk a little and they don't want to say the Pledge of Allegiance. Don't say it. Just keep it quiet. But let the ones that do want to do it say it. I always said freedom is not free. These people that come from overseas to become citizens of America should adapt our way of life. I've always believed that. They didn't come here to change us, to adapt to their way of life. Otherwise, they would never have left.
But it seems we're doing the opposite, though.
that-
We're adapting to them instead of us adapting to them. If
Right.
you went over there, you'd have to do what they want.
Exactly.
But here it seems to be the opposite. We seem to, kowtow to them, and that's not right.
Well, we want to be politically correct, and sometimes trying to be correct could be wrong.
Yeah, I don't believe it. If you come here, you got to follow our rules and regulations.
Right. Now, if you were the mayor of Revere, and we do have a great mayor in the city of Revere, what would you do to make the city education system, the schools and everything else? You did come up with a good idea to put it in either Suffolk Downs or Wonderland.
Well, I think that right now our biggest problem is the population, like I've said. We've really got a great school system. We've gotten all kinds of awards for it. So I think it's really just stay the course right now, keep everything going the way it is. We need space, but we don't have it. So to build schools is a very difficult thing, especially when you're talking all kinds of money, it is, even getting the 80% reimbursement from the state. But land's a problem in the city. And the only land we have is really conservation land. There's really not a good solid land to build things, so it's a real tough decision, and hopefully, I really don't have to make that one, thank God.
No, some people that I've had on the show have come up with some terrific good ideas, and I hope the council out there is listening to it. We need, some youth centers. Why not, when you build a new school, put the youth center right in there, have a special place for them without having to build another building?
Well, you could make an attachment to it.
You get an attachment, or you can have it after hours when there is no school.
I'm not sure where that lines up funding-wise anyways. It's a great idea. The youth center we have, unfortunately, is obsolete now. It's so old.
Which one? The one on B Street?
Yeah, it's old. But unfortunately, there's a cost to everything. I think we should do it. We just did the brand new stadium over. We just dedicated it a couple of weeks ago. It's absolutely gorgeous.
Which one, Harry De La Russa?
Yeah, it's absolutely gorgeous. I don't know if you've been there, but if you don't, you get a chance, you got to see it. And, everything, like I said, is cost prohibitive. There is no doubt we need one, but where are you going to put it right now? That's the problem. Where do you put it? That's part of the
There's not
problem.
much vacant land in the city,
No.
to be honest with you.
There isn't. And I don't know exactly the dimensions that you need, but I'm sure you need a lot of acreage on it to build it right, because you need parking, handicap accessibility. So, sure, it's not an easy thing.
Right. Now, we talked about the city and the taxes and the money going to the schools. What about the handicapped people, the handicapped students?
Yeah, what happens? They come with an IEP. That kids, it's a thing that's done through the state. They come with an individual plan, and you have to transport a lot of kids, with a special van or whatever. The wheelchair people. It is very costly. I know we get reimbursed for it, but it's still a very costly
And time-consuming, I would assume.
Yeah, because sometimes you might just have to take one kid to Beverly, so you have to tie up a driver for probably 2 hours a day. An hour going, an hour coming. So it's a tough thing, but there's not a lot you can do about it. You just try to do the best you can, keep everybody happy, and that's the best you can do.
Also, I would like to ask you about the ROTC. Can you tell me about the high school, the ROTC? How kids who go into high school can join? Can they join in their first year, or they have to wait second?
No, they can join the first year right out of the gate. That was started about 3 years ago, and I think I understand right now there's over 100 kids in it. They do a lot of good work. The biggest thing is that they do the snow shovel for the senior citizens.
Yep, I could vouch for that.
Yeah, they do a lot. They do a lot of good things. They work hard at it, and I recommend highly that if you want to follow that career path, you should do it.
Right, and you have two terrific people there. Major Bowker, I believe is her name, and Sergeant Major Callender's his name. Two excellent people and two great, and I salute them both for their service because they are terrific on there.
Oh, they put the finger down on them. They make sure the kids do the right thing, and right now we're doing a lot of good things with it, and hopefully it continues to go that way.
Right. Now, your father I believe was a military
Yeah, he was
veteran.
in the Navy.
Tell us a little about him.
Well,
which war? Wait a minute. Is it Korea War or Second World War?
It was the Second World War. And he was in there for a while. He wasn't in there that long. And unfortunately, when his time came to go, then he moved on. I don't really have a lot to, really unfortunate to say about it.
Right. So let me say thank your father for his service too.
Right.
Right. What else could we talk about that you would like to, what would you like to talk about?
Well, I mean, I think a little bit about my education.
Your education and your family.
Right. Right now, I'm married. My wife is Ellen. She's a school teacher at the Lincoln School. I have 2 children. My son Edward's 23. He's in his 2nd year law student, and my daughter's
What college, if I may?
New England School, New England Law.
Law School.
New England Law School,
Yep.
yeah. My daughter's at 3rd year at Endicott College. She's studying environmental science. The kids are doing well. I was, like I said, born and brought up in the city. I graduated in 1975 for the new high school, when the high school was new.
1975?
1975.
That's 40 years ago.
Yeah.
Now you give your age away, because
that's
if you were 17 or 18 when you graduated, you're either 57 or 58.
That's okay.
Am I close?
Absolutely, right on the button.
Which one?
58.
Okay.
Also, I went to Northeastern. I graduated in 1980. At that point, I went into business with my father. You know, we have what they call, we have the business GSF tax service, and I've been doing it ever since then.
I have to tell you about Northeastern. When I got out of the service many years ago, I had the GI Bill of Rights. Yeah. I couldn't go to school, college in the daytime because I had kids and I was married and had to work. They had a, I don't know if they still have it, they have a school called Lincoln Institute at Northeastern Night Engineering School.
Yeah,
I took the courses there, so it was a great school. But since the time I went there, there was only one building on Huntington Avenue. Now it's expanded everywhere.
It's like it's enormous. I haven't been there since 1980, and I know somebody just told me, he says, you wouldn't even recognize the place. Because at that time, they didn't have a lot of school, you know, a lot of buildings, but now it's...
They only have one building.
It's astronomical.
Right.
It's
How many
just,
students approximately there?
When I was there?
Yeah.
Oh, God. We had thousands.
See, they didn't have that many when I was there.
They had thousands. But a lot of them, you know, drop out. They transfer. You know, they don't really stick out the program. But, you know, it was a good school.
That's good. Now I'm going to ask you about your kids when they come out of college. Are they, any of them going to be going into teaching? Or just
No. My son wants to be a lawyer. That's what he's gone. He's wanted to do that right from the beginning. My daughter wants to study environmental science, which is one of those up-and-coming things.
Exactly what is that?
Well, it's studying the environment outside, you know.
Oh, I see.
You know, it's environmental stuff. Studies, you know, the outside, like the plants and all, stuff like that, which I understand there's a market for right now. So hopefully when she does graduate in another year or so, that she'll be able to, you know, get a job. I'm hoping.
Right, and let me tell you, today, even when I was a kid, and you had a high school education and you finished high school, you were good. Today, it doesn't mean a thing.
Unfortunately, high school diploma doesn't mean anything.
Right.
It really doesn't mean, even a college diploma, unless you're in the right spot at the right time, that's, you know, hard to get jobs today. There's just so many people competing for so many jobs. And there really, unfortunately, a lot of them out there.
That's too bad. You know, I hate to say this, but we ship most of our good jobs overseas. Yeah. And you know, we're not self-sufficient anymore. I mean, we might be self-sufficient in oil, but we've got to be self-sufficient in industry, like defense plant. Right. You know, when I was a kid, we changed from defense, from Ford Motor, General Motors, Chrysler, into the war machines that we could do it. If we had to go to war today, we would have a tough time. All our steel comes from abroad.
Well, they do it the cheapest way possible. Ship it overseas and get it done for short of money instead of keeping the jobs here, which doesn't do us any good because where are those people going to work?
That's right. We ship the steel overseas. They make the cars, and they ship the cars back here and charge us a fortune. And what do we get out of it?
Nothing.
Exactly.
Nothing. Any job you lose, you never get back, unfortunately.
Right. Mike, I tell you, we only got a couple of minutes left. Take a minute and a half and talk about whatever you want because it's a pleasure to have you up here.
Well, I mean, I've seen a lot of changes in the city, you know, like, you know, from when I started in 2000 in politics to now. I don't really, you know, like to talk about that end of it because it gets sort of personal to a degree. But there's been so many changes in the city, you know, and everybody complains about this and complains about that. And, you know, some of the complaints are valid. But in reality, do you think any of the cities and towns don't have them? I mean, because you live here, you know about them. I mean, just for instance, a place like Stoneham, Linfield, Melrose, they all have their same issues. They have different, you just don't know about them. It's not, unfortunately, it's very expensive to live everywhere today. You know, our taxes, you know, the water, the insurance, everything's high. But it's high everywhere. I
have to look at it in a positive way. When I first came here, we had streetcars here. We have an improvement now. We got the buses and the trains coming into the city. I had to go to Maverick at one time to catch the train.
People don't understand today because they get driven everywhere.
Right.
You know, before when I went to Northeastern, I had to take a bus and two trolleys just to get to Northeastern on the Green Line.
Right, and you were talking about the traffic coming down today.
The traffic stuff.
Mike, I wanted to tell you it was a pleasure and an honor to have you come up
My
here
pleasure.
and spend 30 minutes with us at
My
Revere
pleasure.
Veterans,
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
the Allied Veterans Community Show.
Yep.
God bless you, and I hope you have success in whatever you do,
Okay,
Mike.
thank you. Appreciate
And
it.
when you're a senior citizen, you can come down to our senior center.
There you go. No, I'm not that far away from it.
Okay, and God bless you for that. God bless the city of Revere, our troops especially, and especially our great country, the United States of America. Until the next time, I hope we have another great guest like Michael Ferrante. Michael, thank you again.
Thank you again. Appreciate it.